Hey beautiful people, this episode's looking at how to be more innovative. In this episode we're going to look at practical ways to build your personal innovation capacity, drawing from my book The Innovation Mindset. We're going to examine the 6-step practice model for building your innovation practices. I want to talk to you about how to move from information accumulation to wisdom creation, which I think is a critical part of the future for all of us as artificial intelligence becomes more of the sort of container of knowledge for us and we move to a wiser space for ourselves. I want to look with you at ways to transform everyday work into opportunities for innovation. One of the chapters in my book is called 2 Eyes, 2 Ears and 1 Mouth. I want to talk to you about why. There's this really strong connection and a surprising one between listening and innovation capacity. I want to cover that with you. And I want to talk to you about how constraints can become your innovation advantage. Some people say that necessity is the mother of invention. I would say that constraints is actually the mother of innovation. By the end of this video, I'd like you to be able to understand how to begin using the 6-step practice model to actually increase your own innovation capacity, and then think about how you're going to apply that for the rest of your team. The 6-step practice model is really one about how to build and develop a practice. So if you practice anything at all in your life, you can practice the piano, you can practice the violin, you can practice a sport, you can practice parenting, you can practice gardening, but whatever you do in your life that involves embodied action or learning based on repetition, it's a practice. And I'd love you to start thinking about innovation as a practice, because we tend to think of innovation as something that is brilliant, light bulbs going off, something that genius people think of up in some ivory little tower in the middle of wherever. And I'd love you to start thinking about it as a simple practice that every single human being is capable of. And part of the value of what we're doing here is we're beginning to identify it as a practice, and that gives us access to learning how to be progressively better and better and better at innovation. What I'm also doing by identifying it as a practice is I'm expanding our understanding of what is innovation, because I want you to start looking at innovation as moving from the improvement end of the spectrum to the true innovation end of the spectrum. I'd like you to think about improvement as where you're making existing processes or work better, and the innovation part of it about where we're actually bringing amazing innovations to market that transform societies and make life better for people around us and drive market share and shareholder value and all of those other important and wonderful things. So the 6-step innovation practice model is a model from my book where I look at how do we build practices and how do those practices lead us to building innovation capacity. One of the things to look at when we start thinking about how to be more innovative is to recognize that one of the stepping stones to innovation is actually our ability to be able to observe and identify and distinguish and build practices. So let me talk about that for a moment. When I talk about 2 eyes, 2 ears and 1 mouth, what I'm talking about is our ability to be able to listen to other people. I'm talking about our ability to be able to observe patterns and to recognize distinctions as we work in a particular environment. It's said that there are 200,000 new words that a doctor needs to learn before they can really become a doctor. Every single profession and every single industry has thousands and thousands of words that are distinctions, that are a shared language that people in those practices and in those industries and in those professions learn in order to be able to share knowledge with each other, to co-invent with each other, to be able to innovate together. So innovation itself also has a whole set of distinctions that will allow you to be able to be a much more effective innovator. So If you are looking to be more innovative, I strongly recommend that you start with understanding the distinctions of innovation. One distinction is the difference between improvement and innovation. Another distinction is the difference between innovation as poof, light bulbs going off in people's heads versus innovation as a practice. If we go with the idea of innovation as a practice, that means that there are distinctions within that practice that we can learn that will allow us to be more innovative. If we go with the light bulb idea, now I'm left going, how do I get light bulbs to go off in my head? How do I put together a team of people who can create light bulbs for each other? That's a really hard question, and one that I don't think has a really useful answer to it, because we haven't actually really managed to be able to make that happen successfully. If you dig in underneath the successful innovation teams, what you'll see is they have a shared language, they have distinctions that they build on top of, and that they have helped each other practice over long periods of time. The teams that have been highly successful are the ones that have come together as they have built trust with each other over a period of time. As a matter of fact, I was looking at one of the AI companies recently, one of the very, very successful ones, and it's actually a brother and sister partnership. They have 30, 40 years of experience together building shared language. They have shared practices together. It allows them to be more innovative. So if you're looking to be more innovative, let's start talking about that language and those shared practices. One of the things that I find is a really important growth element for people as they start thinking of innovation as a practice is to start with the most basic practice that allows us to be able to start being more innovative. And the reason why I say start with the most basic practice is because any practice you've ever learned before, if you're learning the piano, you start with scales. If you're learning to drive a car, you start with making sure the mirrors are aligned and your seatbelt is on. If you're learning to be able to do yoga, you start with shavasana, which is lying on your back. So any practice that you get into, you're starting with some of the absolute basic practices. Innovation is no different. One of the fundamental and most basic practices of innovation is learning how to be able to make offers. And the difference between an offer and a pitch or a proposal is many people mistake or conflate the two. An offer is something where you have seen what your boss is looking to do, you've seen what your organization is looking to do, you see that there's something valuable that you could offer in there. You're not going in cold and saying, hey, I want to do that. What you're doing is you're going in and saying, I'd like to make an offer to do this particular piece of work with the resources that I already have assigned to me, which might be just me or it might be you and your team. Here are the metrics I think I can produce. Here's the impact I think I can deliver on. And here's how long it's going to take me. And is that something that you, as the person I'm making the offer to, which in this case I would deem them the customer, the internal customer for this offer. If you're making an offer to an internal customer, that's what you're doing. Now, if we're doing a presentation or a proposal or a pitch, what we're mostly doing is we're negotiating for resources to do something. If you're making an offer, you're doing it with what it is that you have. Many times, if you make a powerful and effective offer, you'll be offered more resources. So instead of allowing the resource conversation to be something that's stalling you or stopping you or slowing you down, work with what you have, work within the constraints that you have, and go and figure out how you can make the most powerful offer you can possibly make. That's going to get you on the road to innovation. Now, that's something incredibly small, and it looks like it's going to get you on the road to improvement. But the interesting thing is the practices that underlie improvement and continuous improvement are very similar practices to the practices that underlie building innovation capacity. If I want to make improvements, I want people to start making offers. If I want to build innovation capacity and I want to deliver on innovation, I'm also asking people to start off with beginning to make offers. So as you start thinking about how to be more innovative, think about how do you get better at designing offers. The other thing to think about is how do you get better at soliciting offers from your people? So if you think about it, if you're running a team of say 100 people, Every single one of those people has a different perspective and a different interpretation of what is going on in the world of work, of what it is it's possible, of what it is that your customers are interested in, of what they think is valuable for your customers. And by customers, I mean not just your external customers, but also your internal customers. And those 100 different perspectives, somewhere in there lies a really great, innovative idea that you're going to work with to be able to bring to market in a way that it impacts the practices of tens, hundreds, thousands of people. So being able to solicit offers from people on your team who are deeply passionate about something, you may not know what it is at the moment, but deeply passionate about something is also how you begin to build innovation capacity and show up yourself as being more innovative. As you go through this process, think about what is the kind of offer that I could begin to make? Start with something small, just getting yourself into the habit of it. Remember, what you're doing in here is you are simply getting into the car, putting on your seatbelt, making sure the mirrors are aligned. That's step number one. And you got to do that a couple of times until you get comfortable with it and get it right. So what I would love you to do is drop me a comment below and let me know what is one offer that you would love to be able to make right now, a small offer, to get you started on the path to being more innovative once you start thinking of innovation as a practice. I have another video on this topic that I think you would find useful, which is how does innovation increase productivity? That is a video that will help you as you look to be more innovative and build your innovation capacity. This is a wonderful and exciting and fantastic journey, and obviously something that I am deeply passionate about and I've written books about, and I welcome you on the journey and I hope it's a big success for you, and I wish you the very best of luck.